Hey, y'all. I'm going to tell on myself a little bit. I always have to catch myself because I start dancing when I hear my own music. Oh my gosh. I feel like the biggest cornball, but I'm sharing that with you. So, welcome to Growth Groove with Dr. Erica. This is Tuesday night, and you know what Tuesday nights are. Whoop, whoop. Welcome. I am so happy to hear. I can't talk today. I am so happy to have you here. And today's topic is 5 myths about suicide. And you'll be like, Dr. Erica, why are we talking about suicide again? Well, it's Suicide Prevention Month or Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. So we want to bring awareness to suicide and the idea that by bringing awareness, we will help prevent these deaths. Because at the end of the day, this is about helping everyone live better. I want you to be better, do better, and live better. And to do that, you have to actually be alive. And I want you to have the knowledge you need, not only to be able to help yourself, but to be able to support those around you in your community or even in your workplace. So I want you to have the knowledge that you need. So that's why we are still talking about suicide because, it probably is not my absolute favorite topic. So as you come in, I'm fortunate because it looks like the sun decided to come out right before it started to set. As you know, I am in Atlanta, and who knew the sun would finally come out late in the day? But I'm excited to have this quality time with you. What I'd like to do is start off with a little bit of housekeeping. The first thing is if you know someone that needs this, please share. The next, if you also know someone that needs this, you have the option of tagging. So you can just hit that little tag button. The last thing is if you're watching it later, don't even worry about it. Just stick hashtag replay in the comments. I would love to have you here. Even if it's late, don't even worry about it. I'll still circle back and check the comments. As you come in, just let me know how you're doing today. So again, if you have not met me and you're new, welcome. I am Dr. Erica, Harvard-trained double board certified psychiatrist and podcast host. I am on a mission to help you be better, do better, and live better. I do that through my adult telepsychiatry practice, my books, my speaking, and my podcast, Better with Dr. Erica. I do all of this to help busy people like you that give to everyone. You give and you give, you give and you give some more. And you may feel like people don't give too much to you, but you also know that you don't give much to yourself. So I'm here to help put you back in your life. So let's get to it. So there are myths about suicide. There are myths about a lot of things. The reason I want to correct these myths is these myths get in the way of people seeking help. They get in the way of people supporting people. So I don't want that to happen. So today we're going to talk about these myths and talk about what the truth is. So the first thing is the first myth. Are you ready? Is only depressed people die by suicide. I said only depressed people die by suicide. Well, there are a lot of reasons that people may think about suicide, attempt suicide, and may ultimately die by suicide. Now, remember, everyone that thinks about suicide and everyone that may attempt suicide, all those people don't necessarily die by suicide. So, the reason this is a myth is there are a multitude of reasons that will push people or put people in the position where they may die by suicide. So, there are a lot of risks, but you can have people that have significant substance abuse difficulties. There are people that may not have traditional depression. They may have bipolar disorder, some severe anxiety, a psychotic disorder as such as schizophrenia. Another community that we don't always talk about as much are the elderly because people may also have thoughts of suicide if they are in severe, excruciating pain. So I just want you to keep in mind that it's not only depressed people or people with depression. The next one's big for the Black community, but it's not just the Black community. This also applies to people of Latin descent and other ethnicities, is the thought that only white people die by suicide. Kind of goes along with this thought that mental health treatment is just for whites. Is that Black people also die by suicide. Ironically, one of the fastest growing rates of suicide is in Black children. So I just want you to be aware that this is not just a white people problem. This is not a problem just for the Caucasians. This is something we all need to be aware of because this can happen in any community. Also, there's a lot of death by suicide in the Native American community, but it can happen in anyone's community. So it's not just the whites. The next is the myth that kids don't die by suicide. That is so not true. Young people, children and teenagers do die by suicide. They're actually one of the quickly rising rates of suicide are in young people. So, the reason this is important is you need to be able to keep an eye out and kind of keep a pulse on the young people you're around. So, this isn't just something for grown-ups. The next is talking about suicide makes people attempt suicide. We all know, especially all of us in mental health, know that that is false. And the reason that has historically been problematic is people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to ask people if they're thinking about it. And if you don't ask people or talk to people, you may miss an opportunity to support them or help them. The next is talking about it can help decrease the stigma so people feel more comfortable getting help or at least letting someone know how they're feeling and that they need some additional support. The next thing is myth is there's nothing you can do. Now, this one comes with a caveat because there are times where people are really ill and they're really sick. And I've seen people like this, and that they're so sick and so ill and so hopeless that there's literally nothing anybody could do. There's nothing. And so I want to put this caveat on it because I know there's someone out here listening that is a survivor of suicide, who's a survivor of someone that died by suicide, that may be beating themselves up thinking there's something they could do. Sometimes there is nothing you can do. But one of the reasons it's important for us to understand that there are times we can do something is there are a lot of people that think about suicide that aren't at that totally hopeless. There's absolutely nothing you could have done. You can tie everything down and they're still going to try to kill themselves. That most people are not at that stage. So when we're able to pick up on cues or see when people are having signs of significant mental health issues or that they're struggling and support them, that means there is something we can do. And the other thing is when people are telling us that they're struggling with these thoughts, that you can advocate and assist them with actually connecting with the help they need. Sometimes it's as simple as you end up calling the crisis line for them. The bonus is, it's weird to say a bonus because the stuff isn't fun, but there's a myth that everyone that has thoughts of suicide gets hospitalized. The reason I want to talk about this myth is this myth sometimes keeps people from getting help because they're afraid if they tell somebody how they're feeling, someone's going to lock them up. The truth of the matter is there are plenty of people that have thoughts of suicide that we do not hospitalize, that we do not involuntarily commit. There are a variety of factors that play into whether someone is actually hospitalized, including the level of dangerousness. And there are times people may have thoughts of death or thoughts of suicide, but actually not be dangerous. So, the reason I like to debunk this particular myth is that I want you to be able to get the help you need, or for the person you know to be able to get the help you need. And I don't want a situation where someone has a difficult situation or an illness that could have been treated go untreated and then have the ultimate bad outcome, which would be death by suicide, because they were uncomfortable talking to someone about how they were feeling because they're afraid they get stuck in a hospital. So I just wanted to put that out there as another myth. So I told you I wasn't going to have you in here too long. Thank you so much for coming. Again, if you know someone that needs this, please share it. The next is please tag. And the last is if you're watching later, don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and put hashtag replay in the comments and let me know you were here. We're going to do a quick review and then I'm getting you out of here. So we're talking about 5 myths about suicide. The first myth is only depressed people die by suicide. We discussed that people can have a multitude of things that they're struggling with that can lead to suicide attempts or death by suicide, including other mental health issues like bipolar disorder, psychosis, bad anxiety, substance abuse, extreme pain. We also talked about the myth that only white people die by suicide. This happens in all ethnic groups, and there are particularly high rates in the Native American population, and there are some portions of the African American population where our rate of death by suicide is growing faster than anyone else's. So this is not a white people problem. The next myth is kids don't die by suicide. They do. And I know you see it on the internet. They keep talking about these kids and the cyberbullying, all these things that are happening. So just stay aware of our young people. Talking about suicide makes people attempt suicide. We just know that's not true. And we have to be able to talk to people so that they will talk to us so that we can help them. The next myth is that there's nothing you can do. And this is a myth, especially, as I said before, there's a caveat because there is one group of people that has such a high level of suicidality and hopelessness that there's literally nothing you could do. There's nothing you could do. But a lot of people, you can be there to support someone. You can let them know you're there for them. You can assist them with finding services and at times call 911 or the crisis line for them, just to be there for them or to help them. The last one is that everyone that has thoughts of suicide get hospitalized. That's just not true. There are plenty of times where these things are able to be managed outside of the hospital. And as I said before, it's typically is related to the level of dangerousness. So I don't want anybody to just not get help because they're afraid they're going to get locked up in a hospital. And part of the reason we have to talk about this is suicide is the 10th leading cause of death. That's pretty serious given how much stuff there is out there for people to get sick. And then if you need it, the National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. There's trained personnel there to answer it at any time. So it's a good number to have around in case you or someone you know needs it. Now, if there's someone that you're not big on talking on the phone, but you'd like to chat, you can also, usually if you just put in suicide hotline or suicide chat line, you can chat instead. Another option is you can text home to 741-741, home to 741-741. You may see this a lot of different places. I always let people know that they track sometimes what organizations people may be affiliated with. So that's why you may see different words. You may hear something and then give you another set of words to text to 741, like, I know Shanti Das, and she has Silence the Shame. So with them, there's sending silence. But the main thing is just being able to connect to help. So that's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I have one more thing to show you. If I can find it. There we go. So we sat and spent a little quality time on suicide. Now we're going to move to something happier. My podcast, betterthepodcast.com. The podcast is Better with Dr. Ericka. Yeah, there you go. Podcast is Better with Dr. Ericka. The last bonus episode before season 2 starts came out today. It's called The Best of Better with Dr. Ericka, the family edition. You will want to see it. The clips are fire. So go on to any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, iHeartRadio. Just look for Better with Dr. Ericka. If you don't feel like going through all that, just go to betterthepodcast.com. There are numerous links you can click on for different podcast platforms or listen directly from that web. And also, if you really love me, if you could follow or subscribe and also leave me a review, that would be really much appreciated. But that's what I have for you tonight. As I said, season 2 starts next week with something special, especially since it's the last week of Suicide Prevention Month. So my guest is Dr. Delicia Haynes. We'll be talking about making your mental health a priority. That drops Tuesday morning for the podcast. And that's what is going on. And actually what I'm going to be doing is in the world, we keep talking about self-care and capacity. And for my self-care and capacity, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off from live streaming just to get myself some rest. So I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. So I will be back that first week of October for Growth Group with Dr. Ericka. But in the meantime, in between times, just catch my podcast because episodes are still going to be releasing every single Tuesday. So thanks again. I love all of you, sending virtual hugs out to every single one of you, reminding you of your usual prescription to call at least one person and tell them that you love them. I know we're still in a pandemic. COVID's still here. Still protect yourself because I want us to get through this all alive and be able to chat about it. So I'm going to hop out of here. Until next time, have a better day.